Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. Katsina State Governor Diko Rada says the burial of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari will take place on Tuesday in his hometown of Daura, following his death in a London hospital on Sunday, July 13, 2025. Hundreds of mourners, including family, friends, neighbors, and top government officials, have continued to visit late Buhari's residence, remembering him as a humble, disciplined, and generous leader who maintained close ties with his community throughout his life. Despite tight security in Daura, commercial activities remained largely unaffected, while prominent visitors such as Katsina State Deputy Governor Farouk Jobe and APC party leaders paid respect ahead of the burial. The death of late former President Muhammadu Buhari has reverberated in Nigeria and across the world, with tributes pouring in from leaders home and abroad, from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to past and serving political leaders across various spheres. Landmark moments in the life of the late former Nigerian leader have continued to be highlighted beyond Nigeria. Governments around the world, including China, have also condoled with the Buhari family, Nigeria and its people. Our special feature on the late former president brings you highlight of his life and times in office.
For a man who began his career as a soldier, becoming a military and a democratically elected president are both considered monumental feats.
The Supreme Military Council met yesterday and after an exhaustive deliberation approved your appointments as military governors for the 19 states of the Federation.
That was Muhammadu Buhari about 4 decades ago as a military head of state, inaugurating military governors following the 1983 coup. He later would spend 2 years leading what a section of Nigerians today refer to as the war against indiscipline under military government. Buhari was born on December 17, 1942 in Daura, Katsina State. He joined the Nigerian Army in 1961 and rose through the ranks, eventually leading the country as a military head of state from 1983 to 1985, a period during which he launched a nationwide anti-corruption and discipline campaign, earning him a reputation for tough leadership. Following decades in public service and several attempts at the presidency, Buhari made history in 2015 when he was elected a civilian president under the All Progressives Congress (APC), becoming the first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent in Nigeria's political history. He was re-elected in 2019 and served 2 terms, focusing on fighting corruption, improving infrastructure, and tackling insecurity across the country. President Buhari's time in office saw the expansion of rail projects, social investment programs, and public sector reforms, including the Treasury Single Account (TSA). 2015, early success against Boko Haram. Buhari is elected President of Nigeria in 2015 on a pledge to defeat Boko Haram jihadists. 2 months after he was sworn in, he sacked the military top brass inherited from his predecessor, Goodluck Jonathan, and galvanized regional support against the jihadists. 2019 disputed election. In February of that year, Buhari was re-elected with 56% of the votes. The opposition cried foul. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, challenged the results, which were validated in court in September. Buhari unveiled his new government in August of same year. 2020 coronavirus protest. In March, the capital Abuja and economic hub Lagos were locked down as part of measures to fight the coronavirus pandemic. The lockdown was eased in May, while a curfew remained in place.
So that there has been some form of injustice on him. We are all humans. There is no doubt I hurt some people and I wish they would pardon me. And those that think that I've hurt them so much, please pardon me.
As the Daura-born retired general and former civilian president exits this world, Nigerians will continue to assess his impact on the basis of the legacy he now leaves behind. Uji Agbomofogbe for Global TV News.
In the meantime, the federal government has declared Tuesday, July 15, 2025 as a public holiday in honor of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. The Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, announced the holiday on behalf of the federal government following the approval of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The declaration comes as part of the ongoing 7-day national mourning period earlier announced by the President to pay tribute to Buhari's life and legacy. Over now to the National Assembly has officially suspended all legislative activities until Tuesday, July 22nd, as a mark of respect for the late former President Muhammadu Buhari, whose death was announced on Sunday. A statement signed by the clerk to the National Assembly, Kamoru Ogunlana, says President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, jointly agreed on the suspension to allow members fully participate in national mourning and burial preparations. Lawmakers have been directed to reschedule all official and private engagements during the period of mourning as the nation pays tribute to one of its most consequential post-military leaders. On behalf of President Bola Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, upon arrival in London, has met and condoled with the family of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari in London. The Vice President also visited the late President's nephew, Malam Mamman Daura, who is recuperating in a London hospital. The condolence visits were conducted while the Vice President awaits the conclusion of procedures and documentation for the repatriation of former President Buhari's body to Nigeria. Nigerians have described late former President Muhammadu Buhari as a leader whose life was defined by service, discipline, and commitment to restore integrity to public office. Some Nigerians who spoke to our correspondent Obong Usoro praised him for his fight against corruption, his simplicity and love for the country. The report.
Former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari died in London after a long illness. He served as president from 2015 to 2023, and earlier as a military head of state from 1983 to 1985. In an interview, Nigerians reacted to the passing of the immediate past president Muhammadu Buhari, saying the entire country has been thrown into a state of mourning, adding that being a two-time president is one of Buhari's greatest legacies.
Seriously, when I heard the news, I was so sad. I'm not really happy. He's our leader, he's our former president, he's our military head of state. That time, there's a policy that he brought that we all enjoy, and there's some policy he brought that we all sad.
It's a very sad one for all of us Nigerians. Many people may have their own side of the story about Muhammadu Buhari, but for me, he's a very good man.
They also described Buhari as a very good man who will be missed, while highlighting the N-Power scheme as one of his major achievements.
We know him with his disciplinary record, who against indiscipline that he introduced to Nigeria, which reshaped the minds of Nigerians.
I really want to say I'm sorry for the great loss to the Buhari's family, because nobody is perfect. In every government, there's always the good and the bad.
Death is actually so inevitable, and he is quite old. He has done his bit, he has tried his best for Nigeria, and I just send my deepest condolences to the family and to Nigerians. I pray that his soul rest in peace.
As Nigerians reflect on the life and leadership of Muhammadu Buhari, many agree that his legacy, whether praised or criticized, has left a lasting mark on the nation's history. Ubong Usoro for Global TV.
Tributes have continued to pour in for late former President Muhammadu Buhari from global and national figures, including Amina Mohammed, Akumi Adesina, Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Femi Otetola, and others who praise his unwavering discipline, patriotism, and decades-long service to Nigeria. The All Progressive Congress APC described late Buhari as an iconic patriot and resilient leader, while opposition parties like the PDP acknowledge his discipline and courage as both a soldier and a statesman. The late former president, who led Nigeria as a military ruler from 1984 to 1985 and as a democratic leader from 2015 to 2023, was remembered for his principled leadership and lifelong dedication to the nation. Former Vice President Yemi Osibanjo has described the death of late Muhammadu Buhari as the passing of a true patriot, a disciplined public servant, and a man who exemplified moral clarity and national commitment throughout his lifetime. In a personality-signed statement, Osibanjo reflected on the 8 years he served alongside late Buhari, noting that their shared service in Nigeria was marked by tough decisions, policy reforms, and moments of national reflection. He offered prayers for the repose of Buhari's soul and extended condolences to his widow, Aisha Buhari, their children, and all Nigerians mourning the loss of a former commander-in-chief whose legacy will continue to shape civic leadership in Nigeria. The Nigerian Governors Forum has expressed deep grief over the passing of late former President Muhammadu Buhari, describing it as a monumental loss not only to Nigeria but to the African continent. In a statement signed by the forum's chairman and governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, the governors described Buhari as one of Africa's most reserved leaders whose dedication to public duty and the modest lifestyle stood him out as a statesman of rare caliber. The forum also extended condolences to President Tinubu, the Buhari family, and the people of Katsina State, while calling on Nigerians to reflect on the legacy of service, sacrifice, and discipline that defined the life of the late leader. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has stressed the need to reposition the National Youth Council of Nigeria to become a more credible, inclusive, and strategic voice for Nigerian youth. The President of the Senate, who was represented by his Special Advisor on Niger Delta Affairs, Jeff Oyema, stated this at the National Youth Council of Nigerian retreat in Abuja. Over now to Kabir Hassan for more details.
With a team repositioning the National Youth Council of Nigeria for national impact and youth-driven development, the President of the Senate says repositioning Nigerian youth is a key component of President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. He says the retreat will help strengthen the role of the youth as a bridge within TICTU. He says the retreat will help strengthen the role of youth as a bridge with the government, thereby amplifying government effort and engaging youth in nation building.
The problem of Nigerians are the youth, and this government have youth in mind. Programs are coming up. The previous government that has been there, they will just come up and say youth will do this, will do that, without doing anything. And when you check about it, when you move around and see the crime rates and everything that is happening, most of them are the youth. Go to the IG, or you move to the different states and get your database from the CPs, the commissioners. You will find out that most of the thing that is happening is the youth. So we are coming up with a good mindset. We are coming up with programs. We are coming up, moving around to bring out the youth, let them believe there is still hope. And this current government, under the leadership of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, under the leadership of President of the Senate, which is President Godswill Akpabio, things are moving around. Just move.
The President, National Youth Council of Nigeria, Solomon Adodo, says the retreat is aimed at addressing the urgent need for reform, youth inclusion, and leadership renewal across all tiers of governance. He stressed the need for collaboration, innovation, and accountability to rebuild the council's integrity and impact, as well as strengthening the youth council structure at the local and state levels so as to identify a pathway for genuine grassroots development.
Your needs, what the president wants to do is to address these needs. If there is unemployment, how can we together articulate and solve it? Young men and women are involved in the insecurity challenges. How can we together nip this in the bud? Vast lands and no food. How can we ensure food security for our country? So the president has thrown a task on the youth of Nigeria that we should organize ourselves, we should articulate our challenges, and he is ready to address and attend to them.
As Nigerian youth population continues to rise, expectations are equally growing for council to transform into a more transparent, active and impact-driven institution. The retreat marks a potential turning point, one that could define a new era of youth-led transformation in Nigeria. Kabir Hassan reporting for Global TV.
The Chief Executive Officer of Tide Hotel and Resort, Ife Francis Shokoye, says it is possible to get a friendly and luxurious reception as a visitor in Nigeria. Ife Francis made this revelation at the opening ceremony of Tide Hotel and Resort in Abuja. Ramsey Enoch Agbo reports.
The Chief Executive Officer of Tide Hotel and Resort, Ife Francis Shokoye, described Tide as a global brand that will bridge the gaps in the hospitality business.
And I know that, having luxury, right, is possible. That having this kind of quality is possible. And that is what brought about, this vision that we should create this lasting legacy that would give our customers, just like you're experiencing here today and other people, bold elegance. In our values, when we're talking about, we're talking about being welcoming, loyal, the things that keep the customers and how they want to feel. That is the way we're going to sustain it, because when you do that, any customer any guest who comes here, would always keep coming back, and that's the experience that we want to keep. That's a legacy that we're driving towards.
Guests at the grand opening ceremony, after a tour of the facility, express how they feel about Tide Hotels and Resorts.
I'm going to recommend this to some of my colleagues because this is something that a whole lot of people are looking forward to. The location, it's really nice, and honestly, I'm going to recommend this on social media.
And I like the idea that each of the rooms has its own music and mood lighting, really, that you can tailor, individually, manually adjusted by you.
Tide Hotels and Resort is a brand that is positioned for both local and international customers, as the facility is equipped for a world-class luxury. Ramsey Enoch Agbo reporting for Global TV News.
You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News return, Cameroon's Paul Biya, 92, announces bid for another term. Details coming shortly, plus business and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. In sports stories now, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Ekwerikpe Ekpo, has said that the federal government, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, is committed to making Nigeria a gas-powered economy, having declared a decade of gas utilization. Ekpo stated this in Uyo while giving his remarks at the South-South Gas Utilization Forum 2025, organized by Gas Aggregators Company Nigeria, with the theme Utilizing Gas as a Catalyst for Sustainable Growth. The minister, who highlighted the benefit of gas-powered economy, called on participants to see the workshop as a turning point, where ideas are not just discussed but implemented. China's export rose by 5.8% in June, surpassing economic forecasts, just as the country reached a tentative agreement with the United States to ease trade tension and reduce mutual tariffs. Despite ongoing economic challenges, including a debt-ridden property sector and sluggish consumer demand, Beijing continues to rely on export strength to fuel recovery in the face of Trump-era trade policies and global uncertainty. Customs officials hailed the trade truce as a hard-won victory and urged continued dialogues, stressing that coercion would not resolve the long-standing disputes between the world's two largest economies. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, has warned that $14.9 trillion in the upstream oil investment is urgently needed between 2025 and 2050 to avert a global energy crisis and meet future demand. In its 2025 World Oil Outlook, OPEC projects global demand rising to over 123 million barrels per day by 2050, up from 103.7 million in 2024, and dismisses forecasts of declining fossil fuel use as unrealistic. On the foreign story now, Cameroon's long-time leader, President Paul Biya, has officially announced he will run for another term in office, ending months of speculation over his political future. The 92-year-old made the announcement on social media, stating his continued determination to serve and promising that the best is yet to come. Biya has been at the helm of Cameroon for over 40 years, making him the second longest serving president in Africa. His decision to seek re-election has sparked criticism from opposition figures and human rights advocates. In 2018, Biya secured a controversial victory with over 70% of the vote. The election was marked by allegations of fraud, low voter turnout, and violence. As throughout his administration, Biya has faced accusations of corruption and failure to address national grievances. His frequent absences from the country for medical treatment have also raised concerns over his health and ability to govern effectively. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Police Minister Senzo Machunu after explosive allegations emerged linking him to organized crime networks and obstruction of justice in high-profile cases. In a televised national address, Ramaphosa announced the formation of a judicial commission of inquiry and named law professor Farouz Chenchale as interim minister pending investigation. Machunu has denied any wrongdoing, is accused of interfering in probe involving political killings and internal police corruption, prompting what Ramaphosa described as an urgent and comprehensive national security response. United States President Donald Trump is scheduled to meet Secretary General of the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, North Atlantic Treaty, Mark Rutte, at the White House today, while he is expected to deliver a major statement regarding new U.S. military support to Ukraine. The announcement follows report that sophisticated American weapons will be sent to Kyiv as Ukraine's President Zelensky confirmed productive talks with United States envoy Keith Kellogg amid ongoing war tensions. In sports stories now, tribute to the late former President Muhammadu Buhari has begun to pour in the Nigerian sports sector after the ex-helmsman of Nigeria died in a UK hospital at the age of 82. The Super Falcons led the way with minute silence before the kickoff of their last WAFCO group game against Algeria in Casablanca, Morocco. The Falcons fouled out at the Lisby Zole Stadium with the intent of ending their group stage campaign on a perfect note, and they began by honoring the late former president. Barcelona has completed the signing of 19-year-old Swedish winger Ronny Berger from FC on a 4-year deal, marking him their second acquisition of the summer transfer window. Despite a serious knee injury that sidelined him for nearly a year, Berger is expected to join the team for pre-season, where manager Hansi Flick will assess his readiness for the senior squad. The promising youngster, who scored 15 goals and 84 appearances for upcoming gains fellow new signing Jean Garcia, is straightening Barca's evolving lineup ahead of the new La Liga season. Nigeria's Flying Eagles stormed into semi-finals of the 2025 WAFU B Under-20 Boys Cup with a 4-1 win over Benin Republic, bouncing back from a nervy opening draw against Ghana. After conceding first goals from Mohamed Abdullahi, Ezekiel Opangu, Imran Mohamed, and Abdullahi Majid sealed a dominant turnout in Accra, with the team displaying superior tactical coordination in the second half. And as we end the Global TV AM News, here's a recap of some of our top stories again. On Global TV AM News, we brought to you that Katsina State Governor Diko Rada says the burial of late former President Muhammadu Buhari will take place on Tuesday in his hometown of Daura following his death in a London hospital on Sunday, July 13, 2025. And in business, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and Gas, Ekberikbe Ekbo, has said that the federal government, under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu, is committed to making Nigeria a gas-powered economy, having declared a decade of gas utilization. On the foreign scene, Cameroon's long-time leader, President Paul Biya, has officially announced that he will run for another term in office, and in months of speculations over his political future. The 92-year-old made the announcement on social media, stating his continued determination to serve and promising that he is the best is yet to come. In sports now, tributes to the late former President Muhammadu Buhari has begun to pour in the Nigerian sports sector after the ex-husband of Nigeria died in a UK hospital at the age of 82. And that's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Up next is Global Morning. Stay tuned.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
It's a great morning, no doubt about that, but well, it is that kind of morning where there's so strong an element of mourning, if you know what I mean. It's Tuesday, the 15th day in the month of July 2025. It's 2 days since the death of late former President Muhammadu Buhari was announced, and today we understand the interment is already underway. Global Television will keep you posted, but it's going to be a long day, quite frankly, not just for us in broadcasting, but also for Nigerians. Amuyi Agbonfwegbe, as always, we're delighted to have you join us here, and my colleague, together with whom we reflect the mood this morning. Well, I always allow the introduction.
Caught on camera, can you imagine? And you know, when you were saying, and my colleague, you know, you were going to say something really nice, and I was like, oh my goodness.
No, I wanted you to be doing your adulting by yourself.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm Jumai Manson, and good morning to each and every one of you. It's a public holiday. We're supposed to be excited, but at the same time, it's a time of reflection and to give, to pay tribute to the late President Muhammadu Buhari. What a great loss to Nigeria, and of course the people of Katsina State, Daura in particular. Well, well, let's just reflect and just sit down and relax and know that God has the final say when it comes to issues of life and death.
Right, that's what it is. I mean, it's been 2 days down the line now. Today, it will be what they call in broadcast presentation, we call it the tone of finality. All right, where you get to put it all to an end. Of course, that means you'll be in charge today. It was already a beehive of activity in Katsina State yesterday. Daura in particular, we saw the eminent personalities who were already throwing in the late former president's hometown. That's in addition to the, well, quite an extended crowd we saw in London, those who came to the hospital where he passed, and of course the crowd also came to condole with his family. Before now, well, Vice President Kashim Shettima had been dispatched by President Bola Tinubu to go bring the remains of the late former president back to Nigeria. So that was the beginning of the burial ceremony as we know it. So all of that will come to an end today. In the meantime, there's so much we need to put in front of you regarding the late former president today, especially the last 8 years that he spent governing Nigeria, the highlights of that particular period of his life, his career, his leadership phase. Would highlight all of them for you in the course of the program this morning.
Yeah, very interestingly. So, and of course, for a man that is from all his for individuals that have been acquainted with him, said a lot when it comes to him being disciplined, upright, in fighting corruption. He might not have it all when it comes to, no one is perfect, I always say, but at least you could just say to a particular instance, he did well here, he did well here. But at the same time, may his soul rest in perfect peace, and may he paradise is sure by the grace of God, but at the same time, the families and friends who are going through this very hard time of grief, I pray that God just consoles each and every one of them, whatever it is. For being our president, of course, he is a father, a husband, a grandfather, so that's something. At least that is something. That is something, if not all, but that is something. So we just wish the family well, and hope that God consoles them in every way that he can.
Yeah, well, that's a great place to put it. As expected, and again, as we are saying here on Global Television, we're seeing Nigerians across spheres of influence condole with the family, say specific things about this former late president. As a matter of fact, former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar retired, says of him that he was quiet and particularly honest. Yesterday, a man who probably was one of the closest to him, especially from the southern part of the country, a man who even ran side by side him in 2011, Pastor Tunde Bakari, was on live television on 2 different programs yesterday. And one of the things he did talk about was how that the late former president was an entirely different man, I mean, on a personal level, from the person that most Nigerians assumed or thought he was. But again, what do we know? No better person to talk about the late former president Muhammadu Buhari than a man like Tunde Bakari, who would talk about him at every turn. Went ahead to even talk about how that, I mean, some of the conversations they had going into the election in 2010, 2011, and all of that, and how that the former late president was such that it was just a different breed in terms of politics, the way he presented himself, carried himself, the kind of leadership style he brought, you know, to the table, brought to bear at different times in his leadership role across board in this country, whether when he was in uniform, when he became a democratically elected president, and all of that. All right, he talked about all of those, and I saw a video, took out time to watch a video yesterday where former Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo also talked about him, highlighted some of his attributes, you know, and things like that. All right, and so much to talk about him. And this morning the conversation continues, and Juma and I will be here to take you by the hand. All right, the conversations around late former President Muhammadu Buhari continues here on the program. We'll, like we said, walk you through many of those high points. Yesterday, former President Goodluck Jonathan, the man whom he succeeded, did say a lot of very sterling things about him, including mentioning that against all odds, he provided leadership for Nigeria and indeed for Nigerians to the best of his ability. Of course, as expected, that became a basis for debate across social media. But today is a different ball game altogether. First of all, we understand that President Bola Tinubu has summoned a special FEC, that was the Federal Executive Council meeting for today. Of course, as you already can guess, issues around the times, of course, the life of the late former president will be the highlight at that meeting. Add to that the fact that today in Daura, late former President Buhari will be interred, and that's when family, friends, and associates will have the opportunity to pay their last respects. In the meantime, reflections around this time with us, with Nigerians, will continue to be a front burner issue.
Of course, reflections of all the things that he has done. A lot of, from the news yesterday, a lot of people had a lot of things to say when it comes to the leadership style of President Muhammadu Buhari. A lot of individuals, well, others might have a different perspective, but for his discipline, being a well, coordinated individual from military, and of course being a democratic president at about that point, that balance, balancing it all and not allowing one to intertwine in different times. But at the same time, a lot of individuals have a lot to say when it comes to his leadership style, and well, basically that is it.
Right. Well, we'll also get one or two persons to keep talking about these issues in the course of our broadcast today across quite a number of our programs as well. And in the course of our news, we'll also highlight big timelines from his time in office. Many of them, time will fail us to go through all of them, but one of the several high points that do stand out as far as the late former president is concerned was during his swearing in 2015 when he did say that I'm for everybody but I'm for nobody. Some persons felt it was cracking them up, some persons laughed over it, but others said, look, what the president has just said is that there's not going to be special cases. Exactly. You're not going to have a situation where some persons are treated more preferably than the others. So it's going to be a case of flat out universal rules and things like that. It was even in the course of that inaugural speech a decade ago that he ordered the top hierarchy of the armed forces to move to the theater of war, as we call it, the Northeast and all of that. But today, all of this has now become basis for assessment for the late former president. Of course, the impact he made while president for 8 straight years across sectors, those also are basis to do an assessment of him. For example, the questions around where was the economy when he picked it up from former president Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and what did he do the last 8 years, the next 8 years of his being in leadership as the president, #1 citizen, father of the country, all right, to turn the tide around for the better for Nigerians. Others say, well, it was during his time we saw this astronomical, never before seen, never before heard culture of borrowing from the IMF, from the World Bank, and from even the CBN. Borrowing locally and things like that. It's for the first time we saw that government would borrow to pay salaries and all of that. It was under him we had to deal with 2 rounds of recession, particularly the one in 2016 when we had former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, and things like that. That's one leg of the argument or debate, if you like. Others say, well, it was under him we saw some level of sincerity of purpose where he was clear what he wanted to do. He brought discipline, at least at some level.
Fighting corruption.
Yeah, against corruption and all sort of indiscipline. He brought integrity to the point that no matter how much you didn't like him, for example, you couldn't dispute the fact that he was a man of integrity. He was regrettably, unapologetically honest about his dealings and so on and so forth. However, that has also now become basis for some people to say that he really never had a grip on his government, especially those he appointed to run the government with him. Ministers, aides, and associates, and so on and so forth. Perhaps it was during his time the term cabal was the loudest. We don't so much hear, we don't hear so much about cabal today as we did between 2015 and 2023 and things like that. And that again is one of the, if you like, strands of the conversation that people are having about the late former president today.
Very true. And of course, you know, it like I said, there's always a balance to everything that you do, even as wherever you are, showing that example that you have to place yourself there. And of course, you know that a lot of individuals are looking up to you. I think that was what it is. From comments that we heard a lot of individuals came out to say he tried as much as possible to take Nigeria to a high level, but some might beg to differ. Like you mentioned, the cabal was really at its peak during his time, but at the same time, like I said, no one is perfect, and you cannot do, things cannot be done, you cannot please everyone, so it depends. But for as much as his reign was, we know that there was a balance in some points, but like I said, no one is perfect, so you might agree, some might beg to differ, but all the same, there was a slight balance when it comes to issues that he actually focused on, which was corruption. And we know that it was eminent that no one is above the law at that point, but at the same time, you know, like you said, he didn't really have that strong grip with individuals whom he appointed. But at the same time, well, we know that he did a lot when it comes to the running and, of course, Nigeria as a whole.
You know, we won't forget in a hurry some of the very standout statements that the late former president had made from time to time. Some of them back at home in Nigeria, others beyond our shores, in some cases altogether away from the continent of Africa. One of them was in South Africa. I mean, when he made that statement, it did get people talking. It got some people feeling emotional when he said he wished he was younger when he became president in 2015. And I'm saying it now, I feel emotional, right? Yes, I mean, as relatively young as I am, I know how he feels, even up till yesterday evening, thinking about when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, and things like that, right? So you can imagine a man at that point who was already crossed 70, still being president, all right, so democratically elected, and now he says to the whole world, I wish I was younger. So that is a pointer to the depth of wish he had, right? Beyond that statement itself. So he probably wished he was in his 30s or 40s. He had all the energy, you know, ideas were flying in his head, you know, he could push beyond what he was able to do at that time for a man who had more than 70 years on this earth and things like that. So it just it was touching. It was almost heart-wrenching for some people, because
of course
that was his humanity there in play. It wasn't politics. It wasn't trying to win an election. It was just putting it in front of you, authentic and organic.
And you know what, you know, when an individual comes out to say that he wish he was younger, looking at his profile as an army general, there are some things that he would have done differently. There are some things that he wouldn't have allowed individuals, or some policies, or you know, the way individuals around will get away with some things. He would have actually come out to put them in their places. You know, once you get older, so when you get older, you get wiser. There's sometimes when you just have to overlook, times when you have to be very empathetic at some point, even when you do not want to, but for the sake of individuals who have interfered, you should. So I think I can relate to that. You know, when we were younger, we could skip ropes, we could, but now our knees will
run from one street to another.
But our knees now will tell you to beg to differ. But at the same time, well, that's the humanity part of him. You know, that hit home, that maybe he would have done things better, would have done things much more clearer, and but at the same time, well, you have to say, well, for him, you can learn a lot when it comes to that. It doesn't matter your age or whatever you have attained in life. Once you put your heart and your soul to something, you can definitely achieve. So I think that's a take home for most people, especially youths in the society, that you can achieve anything. This is the third time he ran, and then he became president. That's an eye-opener for so many to learn and to lean on, that, hey, he didn't give up. So it's not, you shouldn't give up as an individual. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter where you are in life. Don't give up. Once you believe in something, you have to go for it, and you will get it.
That's right. You know, that point you just highlighted again smacks of resilience and tenacity, right? Yesterday we talked about grit in
Yes,
this
we
regard,
did.
right? How that you would contest 3 times consecutively, right? So there was a right time you really told yourself, let's go catch our breath and come back. 2003, right? Got all the, I mean, you got very astronomically high number of votes, but you didn't cut it, as I say. 2007, you repeated that feat again. Millions of votes for you, CPC again. Well, they cut it. Meanwhile, 2003, it was AMPP, which was a very popular party then, strong frontline opposition party, but it didn't work. CPC 2007 was the same thing, even though the votes the former military generals scored, you know, were astronomically high. In 2011, against CPC, this time with Pastor Tunde Bakare, it was close to home, but you see, they say nearly doesn't kill a bird.
Nearly doesn't count.
That was when he cried on national television. Got very emotional at that point.
Very
in time.
emotional.
You know, people say it wasn't crying because he lost the election. He was crying because of the circumstances he saw led to the loss of that election. So it has a bit technical. So it wasn't about him losing the election. It was about the reasons, the systems that made him lose that election. All right, but of course by 2015, the tide was turned around. By then, there had already been the amalgamation of several parties, the ACN, the MPP, CPC, and so on and so forth. And the rest is history, because for the next 8 years, starting from 2015, it was going to be the president's Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic.
Victory at last, in his words, victory at last. Well, at the same time, at this point, we're going to go on a very quick break. And then when we continue, when we come back, the newspaper review segment comes up next. Do not go anywhere. It's Global Morning on Global Television. Stay tuned.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا فلعلك باخع نفسك على آثارهم إن لم يؤمنوا بهذا الحديث أسفا إنا جعلنا ما على الأرض زينة لها لنبلوهم أيهم أحسن عملا وإنا لجاعلون ما عليها صعيدا جرزا أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا فضربنا على آذانهم في الكهف سنين عددا ثم بعثناهم لنعلم أي الحزبين أحصى لما لبثوا أمدا نحن نقص عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى وربطنا على قلوبهم
Let's walk you through the papers at this point, everyone. As you can already guess, the papers are generally replete with stories about the late former president, Muhammadu Buhari from how he passed on, the events that have happened the last 48 hours or so, and then plans around the interments today, later this afternoon in Daraka, Katsina State. That's his hometown. So we begin with the Vanguard newspaper headline just above the nameplates. First off, for you this morning, here it says Dangote plans seaports to enhance export fertilizers orders. Dangote plans seaports to enhance export of fertilizers orders. The Star headline reads with a kicker: Buhari, Tinubu set up 9-man committee, burial holds today. Several riders with that headline. Declares today public holiday. Shetima pays condolence visits to Buhari's family in London. I was with Buhari in same hospital. Abdusalami Abubakar. Presidency postpones special FEC. Okay, so the special Federal Executive Council meeting has been postponed from today. So obviously we'll keep you posted on that one. What more with the riders? National Assembly suspends all legislative activities till July 22nd. That will be in another 1 week. Khan, Amechi, Oshomole, Saraki, Marwa, Olawe, Hashim, others pay tributes. Buhari left indelible imprints on page of National History, NSCIA. Okay, on the right corner of the front page of the Vanguard newspaper today, why I support ADC's coalition but remain in PDP. That's Lamido, former governor of Jigawa State. Why I support ADC's coalition but remain in PDP. More tributes as Awujale is buried in Ijebode. That's a man who passed on same day as former President, late Muhammadu Buhari. A man we also told was good friends with him. Visa overstay. U.S. threatens Nigerians with deportation. Permanent travel ban. All right, a word that says enough for the wise. All right, those are your headlines from the Vanguard newspaper today. Let's flip things over real quick now to the Nation newspaper.
All right, now the Nation newspaper, and above the nameplate it says Plateau seat Osun Governor Adeleke knocks Aregbesola, and that you will find on page 25. Wadada, Ume, Father Shemunsi, 7 other senators set to change parties, and that is on page 28. And below the nameplate it reads here, probe of Obaseki will distract you, Wike tells Edo Governor Okpebolo, and that you will find on page 25. Now the Star story reads, Tinubu African leaders for Daura to attend Buhari's burial. Body arrives Katsina at noon for 2 p.m. funeral. And it still reads inside the Nation, it says full military honors for ex-presidents, governors, ministers, traditional rulers to attend APC short secretariat. Nigerians observe public holiday. We're admitted into same hospital, says General Abdusalami. Akufo-Addo, Jonathan visit family in London. And here it says, body, like I mentioned here, governors Osinbajo, Dangote, Ono, Awujale. And below the foot of the Nation, it reads, hit the ground running, Ayedatiwa urge new Ondo State ESCO members. And that's on page 25. Next, we have the New Telegraph.
All right, so we'll move real quick to the New Telegraph now for you. First, we'll begin with the one above the name mast. Power Discos build Nigerians 2.19 billion naira for electricity in 2024. Says 1.659 billion naira paid, 536.95 billion naira outstanding. Reports e-payment deals dips 8.9% to 103.19 trillion naira in June. Buhari, his achievements, failures, unusual moments. Court bars Ibas from inaugurating New Rivers Services Commission. Don't probe Obaseki, Wike advises Okpebolo, apologizes to Oshomole for humiliating him. Buhari condolences continue to pour in from across the globe. Read up those details on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then quickly we'll walk you through the riders as Tinubu receives late ex-president's body in Katsina today, constitutes interministerial panel for burial. FG postpones emergency Federal Executive Council meeting, declares today public holiday. National Assembly ADC suspend activities in honor of late leader. Jonathan Akufo-Addo pay condolence visit to Shetima in London. Sultan Modi can others pay tribute. Honor Buhari's memory, federal government tells Nigerians. Why Unical dentistry students may not graduate by VC. What could be that reason? Well, read all those interesting details on page 30 of the New Telegraph today. 5,000 applicants jostle for PTDF's overseas scholarship. Abu Jale of Ijebuland, Oba Sikiru Adetona laid to rest. US threatens visa overstayers with lifetime ban. The writer tells us Ukraine, Trump gives Russia 50-day ultimatum, threatens very severe tariffs. Lung disease, that is according to a study you find when you read up those details on page 29 of today's issue of the New Telegraph. Let's move you now to The Guardian, and Jumai will bring us those headlines.
All right, now The Guardian newspaper. Below the nameplate of The Guardian newspaper, it reads, gunmen killed 2 evangelists in fresh Plateau attack. And that is on page 30. Pablo appeals against court order for Natasha's recall. And that is on page 3. Calls for metering deregulation intensify as experts warn of widening gap, and that's on the business part of The Guardian, and that you will find on page 18. Now the Star story reads, pay TV struggles as more Nigerians opt for mobile streaming services, and that is on page 6, which is not far-fetched because it is very true. Pay TV, when it comes to repetition of programs, really, you're not getting, I would say, I'm not getting value for money when it comes to pay TV. So many households.
Why should I keep subscribing?
Why should I keep subscribing? And the worst part is, it's you keep increasing the tariff. Like, are you kidding me right now? So a lot of people really opt for streaming and all of that, which is more convenient, it's easier, it's cheaper, it's better, and most people just tune to their phones and that is it. So on the go, and that is it, and I think it's better. So they should do something to improve their services so that individuals can run back to pay services. Now moving on, now it says here below all of that, it says Buhari gets state funeral as critics fault National Assembly's week-long tribute. Osibanjo Dangote, Abiodun, others bid Awujale farewell, and that's on page 2. And here it says Buhari represented unity, equity, but was misunderstood. I think I understand that part. U.S. threatens visa validity, defaulters with deportation, lifetime ban, okay? And that you'll find on page 3. It says tight security in Daura as Katsina awaits Buhari's remains, and that is on page 3. Over 2 million Abuja indigenous people risk extinction, CSO tells UN, and that is on page 20. And next is the Daily Trust. Over to you now, Oye.
All right, let's start you out with the star headline on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Daura set for Buhari's burial as Nigeria mourns. And I will take it up a little, top left corner, how Lagos LG poll was won and lost. Of course, we understand the All Progressives Congress, the ruling party in the state, cleared all the local government councils. 4 killed, many injured in Kano building collapse. Succession move begins after Awujale's burial. You can find all of those details on page 33, that's page 33. Residents flee as bandits attack Niger communities, kill 6, abduct over 20. All right, we hope the insecurity issues have become a thing of the past in all distant time. While we wait for that to happen, we move to the Nigerian Tribune real quick.
All right, now the Nigerian Tribune, and it's below the nameplate, it reads, Awujale Jebu, they stand still as Oba Adetona is buried. And the rider reads, Abiodun Sanwo-Olu, Osoba, Daniel, Dangote, others in attendance. And the Star story reads, all set for Buhari's burial, Tinubu to receive body in Katsina. And the rider reads, body to arrive by noon, interment set for 2 p.m. today. FG declares public holiday. Condolences registered to be open in MDAs, ICC, Nigerian embassies, missions abroad. NAS suspends legislative activities for 1 week. And besides that, it says the Patriots shift constitutional summit to Wednesday to honor Buhari Awujale. And that's on page 15. Adeleke to Aregbesola, Osun people have not forgotten your records as governor. And that's on page 16. That's all on the Nigerian Tribune. Go out and get yourself a copy to well abreast with issues making rounds. And next is the Punch newspaper.
All right, let's begin with the headline above the name masts. Soldiers bar traditionalist from Awujale's Muslim funeral. What do the writers say? Oshimbajo governors Oshoba, Daniel, Dangote grace Awujale's burial. Fonsegbuwa house poised for throne as Ijebu awaits new Awujale. We understand preparations in that regard are on the way. Adjacent the name plate with a picture of suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Natasha fires back at Akpabio over reinstatement challenge. Daura Kingsmen associates reflect on Buhari's final moments. The writers are just here outlined, about 5 of them. The first one, starting from left, says state burial begins in Abuja today, intimates to follow in Katsina. I was hospitalized in the same London facility as Buhari. That's credited to former military head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar retired. Jonathan visits Aisha in London as Amosu Lawan others arrive Daura. Tinubu appoints Akume Ribadu others to burial committee. Federal government delegation visits Aisha Maman Daura Abdulsalami in London. You have pictures buttressing the developments right there, all laid out on the front page of the Punch newspaper today. So let's bring you 3 more headlines, this time from the foots of the front page of the Punch newspaper. Left corner of it, Naira rebounds to 4-month high, trades at 1,518 to the US dollar. Seems we're making progress in that regard. Ogun workers begin strike over 82 billion naira pension arrears. That has a picture of the governor of the state, Abiodun there. And then lastly, 2027, Adeleke attacks Aregbesola over plan to oust governor. Okay. News Direct, that's the Nigerian News Direct, is our next port of call this morning.
All right, now the Nigerian News Direct, above the nameplate, it says, Osun 2026, you left a legacy of huge state debt, unpaid salaries, and that's from Adeleke tells Aregbesola. Now below the nameplate, it says, FG releases full burial program as Tinubu receives Buhari's remains in Katsina today. And there are 3 riders to that kicker, and it says declares national mourning public holiday. Abdulsalami recounts Buhari's last days in London hospital. Shatiman leads FG delegation visits Aisha Buhari in London. And that's on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct. Now below all of that, it says 2027, Buhari's death and the battle for soul of northern politics. And below that, it says Lagos launches advocacy drive to tackle out-of-school children crisis. Osimbanjo, Abiodun, Sanwo-Olu, Dangote, Osoba, others bid Awujale farewell. Now bandits wreck havoc in Niger communities as over 200 motorcycles ferry armed men across villages in 3-week rampage. That's all the stories making rounds in the Nigerian News Direct. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making round. Next is a Daily Courier. Over to you, Uwe.
All right, just beneath the nameplate of it, FG declares Tuesday as public holiday to honor Buhari. So, if you're in the city today, you know what time it is. Roads are quite not as busy, half as busy as they usually would be because of the public holiday.
Yes, it is.
All right. Adeleke berates Aregbesola, your tenure is the worst in Osun history. Two riders with that headline. Osun people urged not to fall for recycled politicians seeking a comeback. We would campaign when the time is right, Aregbesola. What's more here, dignitaries and crowds at the interments of Awujale of Ijebuland, Oba Shikiru Adetona, according to Islamic rites. This was in Abeokuta, Ogun State capital, yesterday. Kalu, Nigeria must defeat the $79.4 million daily oil theft despite PIA gains. Akpabio asks appeal courts to set aside ruling reinstating Senator Natasha. Court halts inauguration of Rivers Civil Service Commission members. Trump gives Russia 50 days to resolve Ukraine war. Modric becomes teammate with Chukwueze at AC Milan. Or what a small world they were in football. All right, let's go to our next paper now. That's the Standard Times for you.
All right, now the Standard Times. Thank you, E. And above the nameplate says Nigeria seeks 25% boost in OPEX quota by 2027. And that is from the NNPCL. Now below the nameplate, it says Head of State dignitaries expected in Daura as Buhari bids final farewell today. And we have 4 riders. There's a Tinubu names Akume, Edu, Wike, others in Burial Planning Committee. Declares Tuesday as public holiday and postpones special FEC meeting honor of Buhari. NAS suspends activities to honor late former president, that is. And here it says road accidents claimed 75 lives in 6 months in Edo State, and that you will find on page 4. Forgive us for failing to retrieve your mandate, PDP begs Edo people, and that's on page 2. Sahara Energy Resource closes $225 million facility for global expansion sustainability, and that is on page 2. Governor Ayedatiwa swears in 16 new commissioners, reiterates commitments to good governance, and that's on page 2. FG gives Air Peace the nod for direct flights to Brazil, and that you will find on page 2. Air Peace making waves there. 2 dead, 8 rescued as uncompleted building collapses in Kano, and that is on page 10. Now below the foot of the Standard Times, it reads drama as traditionalists invade Awujale's burial site, and that is on page 3, of the Standard Times. Please go out and get yourself a copy and well abreast. The next is This Day.
All right, we begin this day now with the big headline here. Tinubu leads delegation to Buhari, to burial of Buhari to receive remains at Katsina Airport today. The writers tell us constitutes state burial committee, orders 25 FEC members to Daura. Ex-president's corpses movements delayed by documentation. FG reschedules FEC session to honor late leader, declares today public holiday. Jonathan Akufo-Addo visit vice president in London, pay tribute to Buhari. What more here? It says Maman Daura family members, how former president spent his last hours. Above the nameplates, Awujale buried amid tight security as traditionalists storm burial venue midway. The riders here say Ijebu-Ode Council closes major market. George Bakare others mourn. That will be all, except that there is one more headline here. Bloomberg, Dangote sets to build seaports in next phase of business. expansion. Well, you can't stop a man who is resolved to achieve whatever he has set his heart to. Well, let's look at the next paper here. The National Star, and Juma has those headlines.
All right. I'm sure some individuals will, when you hear about the Bluebird Seaport, and some will say, let's finish with one first. Let's be done with it. Exactly. The refinery, we don't know where we are yet in Nigeria, because Warri, Port Harcourt, they pose as shutting down, like he mentioned, going to sell it off. And yet we're talking about Bluebird. But let's see how far this plays out. But I'm sure a lot of individuals have the same mindset as myself. Let's finish with one first and be sure that is steady before we move to the next.
But fair enough. I mean, if you to Dangote, his refinery is afloat. It's up and running. It's the national refineries that have an issue. Warri, Port Harcourt, and Kaduna. And that's why he was saying that those ones should be put up for sale. And the Group Chief Executive Officer, the GCEO of the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Ojulari, has also lent credence to that, to say that these refineries should be sold. Nigerians believe, quite frankly, from the facts and the data and statistics we have in front of us, that the authorities have not been sincere about the state of Nigerian refineries. And that's why nobody is answering questions specifically as to how much has been spent in terms of turnaround maintenance over the years. Those refineries still have people working there. Even while they were all moribund, not working at all, there were still people working there. Now the question is, what value were they bringing? Vis-a-vis the salaries that run into billions that were paid to these people. Nobody's answering those questions.
But at least he can.
So Dangote is more like a light in the dark room right now.
A light in the dark room, but at least he can help when it comes to issues.
And that's what the gentleman is doing.
Okay, let's see. But let's see how well this plays out and see the resources and of course the infrastructure it will bring to Nigeria as a whole. Next is the National Star, and below the nameplate it says we were admitted in the same hospital. Abdusalami Abubakar recalls final moments with Buhari, and that is on page 21. Now, TED Fund to delist institutions over unutilized intervention funds, and that you will find on page 19. And on page 9 of the National Star, it says tension in Edo as youth protest killings, kidnapping. And the Star story goes, Buhari goes home today, and we have about 3 riders there. It says Tinubu to receive body of late ex-president. Federal government declares public holiday. Postpones FEC meeting. APC, ADC shut offices. Declare 3-day mourning. And then here it says here, Vice President Kashim Shettima led the delegation on a condolence visit to the family of the late former president, Muhammadu Buhari, in London. And again, power supply drops in Northwest. Are we surprised? No, we're not. A Public Appeals Court judgment ordering Natasha's recall, and that is on page 7. And it says NAS under fire over 1 week shutdown, and that you will find on page 2. Nigeria targets 25% oil quota hike in 2027, and that's from NNPCL. Suspected Fulani militias kills 2 preachers in Fresh Plateau attack. When would this come to an end? We do not know, but hopefully, fingers crossed, soon. And you will find that read on page 13. Dangote submits proposal for Nigeria's largest seaport in Ogun. And still on the National Star, last read there says, road accidents claim 75 lives in 6 months in Edo, and you will find that read on page 11. A very sorry state. Talking about our roads. Our roads are in really bad condition. When you talk about from Lagos to Edo, it's nothing to write home about. From the Ibadan Expressway to Lagos, nothing to write home. Our roads are really, really bad. I think need to be done ASAP, so that, because these are, every life matters. 75 is a lot. It's huge.
We can continue to allow our roads to be death traps.
Exactly.
Especially those trunk roads, interstate roads.
Exactly. And it's not everyone that can afford traveling by air. Most people, it's the road that they know, because it's more affordable when it comes to that. And it's just unfortunate that this is where we are. I think we should focus on some very important things when it comes to roads. Like I mentioned, all sectors are important. But you see, roads, transportation, when it comes to health, education, all of these are key because it has to do with our daily lives every single day. I think the needful needs to be done. It's very, very important. And next is the Daily Monitor. Over to you now.
We move on to the Daily Monitor for you quickly. We'll begin with this one right above the nameplate of it. It says, campaign ahead of 2027 elections, distraction. Foursquare General Overseer, with its picture there, is the one to whom that headline is credited. All right. Beneath the nameplates, FG to launch agency to support local innovators. WHO backs twice yearly HIV injection for immediate global use. Insecurity, Okpebholo establishes special squad against cultism, kidnapping. Lawyers integral to optimal regulatory compliance in oil business. That's according to NMDPRA Executive Director. Okay, then we'll move on to the big one, the star story here. Buhari's burial, that's a kicker. FGA constitutes committee, declares public holiday with 3 riders there. Shifts special FEC meeting in honor of former president to Friday. Remains of ex-president to arrive in Katsina by noon today. Interment holds in Daura. Katsina NSCDC deploys 2,807 operatives ahead of burial. And one more to go. PIA attracted $16 billion in investments, 50.8 trillion naira crude revenue. That, according to Kalu, says continued legislative attention absolutely required to address lingering implementation challenges. All right, let's go look at the last paper today, Daily Independent.
All right, now the last paper of the day is the Daily Independent. Above the nameplate, it says here, non-certification of NCAT's $21 million B737NG simulator 5 years after leads to capital flight. 7 years after low enrollment cripples Nigeria's micro pension plan. Now below the nameplate, that is the star story, it says with debt burden, FG taps into local market to fund deficit. And the rider there reads, experts warn borrowing poses broader risks to economy. And then still more stories there. It says Nigeria's inflation projected to decline 21.4% in May, and that read you will find on page 6. FIA attracts $16 billion investment, drives sector growth, reps deputy speaker, and that's on page 7. Shatima leads federal government's delegation to Buhari's family in London, and that is on page 7 also. Still on page 7, world leaders mourn Buhari. Page 6 reads, Tinubu raises 17-member committee for Buhari's burial. And tributes continue to pour in for Buhari, and we have about 5 riders there. And it reads, former president for burial in Daura today. APC shuts national secretariat to mourn him. Federal government declares today public holiday for Buhari. Postpones special FEC meeting for funeral. ADCs in 3-day mourning suspends activities. And that is it on the newspaper review segment. And go out and get yourself a copy of the papers to be abreast with issues making rounds. And remember, Global Morning has not added or subtracted to this particular news feeds on the newspaper review segment. We just brought it as it is. So go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed. It's still Global Morning. Do not go anywhere. But over now to Ogo. Ogo on the social buzz. Let's hear what the internet is buzzing and talking about on that particular segment. Do not go anywhere. And okay, my producer just said let's go on to the first discuss of the day on Global Morning. Do not go anywhere. The program continues shortly. Stay tuned.
افترى على الله كذبا وإذ اعتزلتموهم وما يعبدون إلا الله فأووا إلى الكهف ينشر لكم ربكم من رحمته ويهيئ لكم من أمركم مرفقا وترى الشمس إذا طلعت تزاور عن كهفهم ذات اليمين وإذا غربت تقرضهم ذات الشمال وهم في فجوة منه ذلك من آيات الله من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وتحسبهم أيقاظا وهم رقود ونقلبهم ذات اليمين وذات الشمال وكلبهم باسط ذراعيه بالوصيد لو اطلعت
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest. And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Nigeria Week London 2025. It's time to celebrate the pulse of Africa's most exciting nation. It's coming to Hippodrome Theatre from July 24th to 26th, 2025, showcasing the best in Nigerian arts, music, fashion, and investment opportunities. Whether you're looking to discover the future of real estate, explore Nigeria's culinary masterpieces, or get immersed in an electric Afrobeat performance, this is the event of the year. You can also join us for a film festival, cultural dance spectacles, and the recognition awards. Don't miss out on the business opportunities and cultural experiences waiting for you. Book your tickets now before they're gone on eventbrite.co.uk. Call or text +447 438 893 190 or 080 330 46768 or +447 459 071 747. Visit our website superiorradioandtelevision.com. Nigeria Week London 2025, celebrating the best of Nigeria, is partnered with Civil Society, scaling up nutrition in Nigeria.
In partnership with Global Television. Today, the 15th of July 2024, is the World Youth Skills Day. Now, skills development is essential for empowering youth through capacity building. It equips individuals with the necessary skills. Now, this succeeds in the workforce and beyond. Now, providing relevant skills, young people become more employable, fostering entrepreneurship, boosting confidence, and promoting civic engagement. Now, initiatives focus on capacity building such as needs assessment, curriculum development, and training delivery are crucial for empowering youth. Through these efforts, young people can reach their full potentials, contribute to the economic growth, and build a brighter future for themselves and their communities. Today on Global Morning, I am being joined by a very good friend of mine. She is no other person than Ambassador Dr. Ifeoma Anyao. She's a creative director of Ogodo Designs. It's a fashion house, and of course, she is the CEO of Babe Mentorship Academy. Academy, and she's right here in the studio with me. How are you doing, Ambassador Dr. Ifeoma Anyao?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Now, talking about this very important issue at hand on the first discuss on Global Morning, key skills. What are the key skills that are most in demand in today's job when it comes to the job market? Or you can just break it down a bit for us, what it's all about or what it entails.
Skills, basically, I would say anything that most times, really with the youth, they have ideas, but most times because the environment is not enabling for them, so most times you see them doing things haphazardly. So for me, anything that has to do with IT, anything that has to do, I mean, we're talking about AI right now.
Exactly.
So anything that puts them in front of the system, anything that can make them think, anything that can make them use their intuition, because a lot of these youth people, you know the whole Gen Z generation, they are fast thinkers and all that. So if we do not have that enabling environment to be able to harness those, thinking, that's their thinking process and all that, we just might miss it. That's why it looks like a lot of countries are far ahead of us, because they have environment, they have enabling environments for their youths. They have, so no idea is trash. They look at every idea and see how they can maximize on those things. And what it does for the youth is it emboldens them, it gives them confidence to be able to put stuff out there. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is the 21st century. So I would say anything that has to do with IT, anything that has to do with technology, even makeup, every profession right now, it's digital, it's going digital. So I say anything has to do with digital, it's definitely a front burner.
Do you think we do not have the enabling environment when it comes to skill acquisition? Like you, I know you run a fashion house, an amazing one at that.
Yes.
And of course, the big mentorship where you actually mentor women and all of that.
Yes.
How did you get to that level despite our environment and where we find ourselves? Remember you mentioned we do not have an enabling environment.
Yes. Well, I think one of the basic fundamentals to help with capacity building, especially for developing the youth skill, is pairing young minds with experienced hands. And that's where I come in. That's why I decided to set up the Babe Mentorship, which actually means brings attitude, beauty with enterprise. Encouraging the youth, especially young ladies, to get off the streets and whatever their hand finds to do, they should do it. So I think the ability to create an environment where you can source and look for experienced hands, people that have track records like myself, people that already have a mentorship program where they can be paired with upcoming entrepreneurs that are in the field of their specialty, and get them to work together to help enhance their dreams and ideas. So for me, the Babe Mentorship is a program set aside to mentor young minds, develop their skills, communication skills, on how to start and stay in business. So for me, one of the key areas is, showing or pointing fingers to mentors, people that they can, if the government can provide, there are a lot of people that have excelled in their businesses, in their profession and all that, if they can come up with trainings where these youths that are interested in their fields can be paired together to help learn the works. So for me, that's what Babe Mentorship is all about. It's about giving back my experience.
All right. Now, Ambassador Dr. Ifeoma Anyao, now for some, with this era of the Gen Z, like we mentioned, AI and all of that, some people would think skills is a waste of time. How can I have a degree and then the next thing you tell me I should get myself involved in skills? How far would that take me at this point? And with the Nigeria in which we find ourselves now.
Well, guess what? I'm here to break to you that Nigeria definitely on that point have moved past. Everybody wants to be a doctor, wants to be an engineer and all that.
Really?
Oh yeah, because if you look at the modern world, if you look at the Western world, in as much as going to school is important, but these days they get certification in certain areas, in certain professions. Instead of just going to school and studying law, at the end of the day, there's really no use here. That's not where your heartbeat is. That's not where your skill acquisition is. So with the Western world, they encourage them to develop and enhance their skills. So with Nigeria right now, what I see now, I mean, I have a daughter, I have a 17-year-old that is about to get into university, and at first she wanted to be a lawyer. Now she's telling me she wants to go into digital, she wants to go into that, and I'm encouraging her because guess what? That's where the 21st century young minds are right now.
We're evolving.
Yes, so I would say that Nigeria definitely is on that pace. It's not so much about going to read law, medicine and all that. While those courses are important, it's about developing and enhancing their skills. And I think you should start from secondary school. Like I said, I'm an advocate for curriculum. I'm an advocate for putting entrepreneurship in curriculums where they can start teaching the young minds how to be entrepreneurial, how to move and decide on what they want to do, develop their skills, and make them understand that every dream that they have is valid. So I think Nigeria is definitely on that page right now, is for the government to help to develop those skills in the young minds.
But let me ask you, when you say develop the skills in the young mind, I know you mentioned secondary school.
Yes.
But how early can you start to, to put it in the young minds of these individuals? Isn't it like when you're educated and at the same time you have something at hand? It doesn't matter when you're on holiday, you do something. But with the way things are going in Nigeria, is it that even if I have an educational background, I still need something, I must have something at hand, which is my skill that will actually push forward?
Yes. Well, like I said, secondary school. Why secondary school? Because you've got, if you look at Form 1, you have students from 11, 12 years old. You'll be shocked. Because there's no engaging, enabling environment, some of these people are afraid to put up their ideas out there, because sometimes some of them come from homes where their parents are lawyers and doctors, so they really do not entertain them. But when they get to school, a proper teaching facility where teachers are able to listen to them, you'll be shocked. There are some that are very good at painting, there are some that are very good at writing. We have great writers in the works. So it's about developing. When you have that entrepreneurship skills, those courses there, then students feel free to bring up their ideas, and you'll be shocked at the things that they do. So for me, I think you should start from secondary school, because then they're slightly a bit more mature. They'll be able to coordinate their ideas and put it to paper, or even practicals, because in schools today, a lot of people are centered around having computers, having labs, having all these things that enable them. So life shouldn't just be for biology, it can be for so many other things that they can do. So for me, secondary school is the starting point. Then once they come out of school, there's no work. Guess what? Some of them, even in universities, already have businesses running. And at the end of the day, that's what sustains them. That's how I got into fashion designing.
Really?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a lawyer.
Really?
So yes, I wanted to be a lawyer, but somehow it didn't work out because the whole educational system. I didn't want to stay back at home, so I took up English. After 4 years, I started going to do my master's in international law. So at the end of the day, while I was waiting for admission into University of Abuja for my master's program, business idea just came up, and instead of waiting, I decided to start up my own business,
which is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, so that's how I started my own business. And guess what? Sometimes I sit back and ask myself, if I'd been a lawyer, would I have gotten the accolades that I have today? I have over 30 awards to my name in entrepreneurship, in fashion designing, in beauty space and all that. I'm a public speaker and all that. Probably if I was a lawyer, I would probably not be as accomplished as that. So it's about following your dreams, and actually that entrepreneurship spirit helps you in the long run.
Amazing, because I've tried on your dresses. I've seen your store. Amazing, and of course amazing. I would just say in one word, amazing. Now, for someone out there whose parents are doctors, lawyers, who believe in that touch of you must have a qualification, you shouldn't bring anything skills close to my ear. I don't want to hear that you want to become a fashionista. Or how does that child break it down to the parents, for the parents to understand that, hey, my calling is not being a doctor like you, but I want to venture into something more broad, like a fashion house, like what you have now. How do you think parents should perceive and accept that child who has that vision in his or her head?
Well, that's where I think the school comes in, because I think for every secondary school they have guidance counselors.
Yes, they do.
Jill, so if that department is actually working in secondary schools, which I think is one of the most vital departments in secondary school, because what that happens is that from time to time, maybe once a week, once in 2 weeks, they have discussions, one-on-one discussions with these students, and hear where their mind at. So they can invite parents. It's not just PTA where they come to discuss money, they want to build a structure and all that. They can invite parents and say, hey, this is what we discovered about your child. She's on course to study medicine, but this is what she can do. You know, so I think by the time they hear it from another party, a party that they respect, they might say, okay, but as long as he does not deviate from them being a doctor. I mean, I've seen students that parents have sent abroad to study medicine, and 2 years down the line they just call their parents that they've changed into fine arts, they've changed into that, and the parents are back here in Nigeria, they are screaming at the top of their voices, and the kids over there, because of the society they live in, they are independent to be able to make up their own decisions. So before you get shocked by your children, I think if the guidance counselor can help, sometimes parents, like my daughter, when she was choosing her course for university, I invited a personal guidance counselor to speak to my daughter and myself, and we came to an agreement. I'm like, okay, fine, if this is what makes you happy, why not? She wanted to study law. When she told me she wasn't going to study law anymore, I got in a guidance counselor and we discussed it, and at the end of the day, as long as my daughter is happy and I know it's something she will excel in, why not? You never know what the future holds and who she's going to be tomorrow. So that's it.
No, you make skill development seem so seamless and so easy. You make it from the way you've said it. I'm considering, okay? I think I'm just kidding. Yeah. But you make it seem so easy, seamless. Is that what it is? Or there's a lot when it comes to concentrating, no distractions. You have to put in the work. You have to put in every single detail. It's very important.
Yes. You know the thing about skills, you know, when we talk about skills, or we talk about the drive of the young mind, you know, a lot of them already have ideas. They just need somebody to harness it, whatever the ideas is, you know. So for me, you know, it sounds so easy, but it's not as easy. Most important thing is passion. First thing, you must have passion. I say passion over money, because once you're passionate about something, definitely you can attract investors, even your parents. You can get people that believe in your dream and all that. Depends on how far you're willing to go with your own dream. So for me, the number one requirement is passion. Stay in the course. Trust me, entrepreneurship that has to do with skill development is not an easy road to walk on. But one thing that sustains you is having the passion. Is that passion that makes you to go overboard when you have trials, ups and downs and all that. So it's definitely not easy. Sounds easy from this side. I mean, I'm looking at 25 years down the road in this journey, you know. So it starts with developing ideas. It starts in enabling environment. It starts in listening ear, and it starts with self, having a passion for the things you love to do. You just see yourself natural aphrodisiac. I always say the greatest aphrodisiac is getting paid for what you love to do. Any job that doesn't make you a clock watcher, definitely you have found your calling.
Any job that doesn't make you a clock watcher, definitely you have found your calling. Let's go on a very quick break. Of course, Ambassador Dr. Ifeoma Anyanwu is still in the building with us, talking about skills and, of course, entrepreneurship. Do not go anywhere. The program continues shortly. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Alright, you are welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, it's Global Morning and it's the first discuss of the day, and I'm not doing it alone. First of all, we're talking about capacity building and, of course, skill development, and I'm not doing it alone on the program. I have an amazing individual, someone I respect a lot. She is no other person than Ambassador Dr. Ifeoma Anyanwu, and she is the creative director of Ogodo Designs. Ogodo Design Fashion House. She's the CEO of Babe Mentorship Academy. Now, how does First of all, you're welcome again.
Thank you.
How does capacity building drive that mentorship program that we were talking about right now?
Number one, I think it builds confidence in young minds. You know, it builds confidence in young minds to be able to express their ideas. Number two, I think what it does is it encourages active citizenship participation, because when you embrace their ideas, they want to do more, and when they want to do more, they affect their communities with their new ideas, with their initiatives, so they become an integral part of wherever they find themselves. And another important thing is that it makes them resilient, it makes them prosperous, it gives them this audacity to do things. And guess what, when it comes to times of contributing positively to the society, coming up, decision making and all that, you know, when you have young minds, it shows where the country is at that particular point in time. I mean, if you look at other Western countries, look at Japan, look at the owner of WhatsApp, look at the owner of what's this, TikTok, Twitter. These are young minds. Do you understand? If they didn't have that enabling environment that the government has provided, I mean, they have factories, they have training centers and all that. So I think one of the major things we need to do, we need to set up training centers for entrepreneurs. Apart from personal people like myself that already have mine, government should have something where people, just like you have universities, where people can go and study any course that they want at very minimal cost. It is to the advantage of the government. It is to the advantage of the society they find it themselves. So for me, one of the things that it does is that it gives economic opportunities. You know, they can contribute. They are not just dependent on government. They are able to come up with their own little businesses, help themselves, help their own family. So in turn, even help the government. Because at the end of the day, if everybody is dependent on government, you know, the government is overwhelmed. And if you have a government that is centered on the central part of the system and not on state level, local government, then there's a discord, there's a bridge of communication. So what it does is it provides economic opportunity, which is very important for any thriving society like Nigeria.
Now, looking at this critically, do you think the youths are ready, though, to explore this, if these avenues are made available when it comes to the government giving that support? The youths, do you think they're ready to explore?
Well, I think they're ready. If you see the fire and the energy, I mean, if you go on social media, and that's the reason why most of them are stuck on social media, because there are no jobs, opportunities. They believe that people, the grown-ups, don't want to listen to them. They don't have ideas. So that's why you have a lot of content creators. And you see what some of these people have taken content creating too. Some of them are already making millions. Some of them, of course, you have some, you know, not too advisable content creators, but you have the very intelligent ones that have come up with ideas and things that, innovative ideas that are moving the society and giving other people opportunities. So for me, the youths are ready. When you see them vibrant like that, when you see them, there is one thing, they want to protest, but they are looking for outlets to express themselves. Very true. But we can channel that energy into, okay, what do you want to do? What can we do about this? And you'll be shocked. So I think, I mean, the Minister of Youth, Minister of Education, come up with programs that encourage, that engages the youth. I don't think there are enough programs that encourages or engages them. So that's why it looks like they're not ready. Just like, you know, one of our former presidents are lazy youths. No, Nigerian youths especially are not lazy. These are up and doing. They will do anything to survive. The most important thing is that we pray they don't do something negative to survive. Exactly. So we need to catch them young. Government needs to come up with policies, training centers, get their ministers active in these areas, and you see what Nigerian youths will be able to do.
Amazing. And then now, to a Nigerian youth out there who is trying as much as possible to, you know, he will rise, fall, and trying to make ends meet, say something to that individual or individuals.
Dear Nigerian youths, if you're watching
That's your camera.
If you're watching me, I want to say to you that your dreams are valid. What did I say? Your dreams are valid. It doesn't matter how stupid it sounds now. Trust me, the man that invented aeroplanes, people didn't believe in him. They thought he was crazy. I mean, how do you take something high up in the air and it stays there for a number of hours? But today, that is one of the most preferred ways to fly. So your dreams are valid. Keep going, keep pushing. Write your vision down. Remember what the Bible says? Write your vision down and run with it. So keep it in focus. Whatever you do, always check on that vision, whatever thing that you've written back, and do everything in your capacity, no matter how small. Get people, a group of people that believe in you, and trust me, it will keep you positive minded and take you away from anything negative. So like I said, your dreams are valid. Keep pushing. I see you, and a lot of entrepreneurs that walk down your shoes see you, and trust me, you'll get overboard.
Amazing recipe of encouragement there. And like I mentioned, I am being joined today by an amazing individual, someone I hold dearly to my heart, a very good friend of mine, Ambassador Dr. Ifeoma Anyao. She is a creative director of Ogodo Design Fashion House, the CEO of Babe Mentorship Academy. And she says, I see you. It doesn't matter how far it's going, but don't worry, with time and with determination, you will make headway. Thank you so much, darling.
Thank you. If I can say one more thing.
Yes, please, go ahead.
My Babe Mentorship Academy, what it does basically is I train young entrepreneurs, not just young entrepreneurs that want to start business, people that are already in business, 9 to 5 that are looking for, multiple streams of income. I teach them on how to start and stay in business. I have excellent tips on how to maximize your opportunities in business. So you can contact me via this TV station on how to contact me and how we can get that dream rolling. So it's Babe Mentorship Academy. My name is Dr. Ifeoma Anyao.
All right. And with that, we have to wrap up the first segment of the program, Global Morning. The second segment coming up next. But before then, let's hear what Social Buzz is all about. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Good morning and welcome to Showboys. I am Ogot Kumobno. What's trending today on the internet, socially? What exactly is happening? We all know that it's no news anymore that the country is actually mourning one of its great leaders, Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on Sunday, in UK, and everyone in the country have actually been thrown into mourning. But then a landlord still find a way to kind of assault its tenants. A 300-level female student of the University of Lagos has raised alarm after posting a video online where her landlord was allegedly heard threatening to kill her for rejecting his sexual advances. In the now viral clip, the student recorded the heated exchange between herself and her landlord. The confrontation took place at the residence, with the student insisting that she could never sleep with the landlord no matter the threat. At one point, the landlord can be heard allegedly threatening her life. "You are going to die if I see you here," he said, before going on to suggest that 500,000 will settle it. How can you even wager people's life to money? What amount of money can actually stand for people's life? Everyone is actually mourning in the country right now. Mourning the president, the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, was someone somewhere in Lagos had the audacity to actually threaten tenants. Well, let's take a look at this short clip.
You are going to die.
I'm going to die, Abby. Sharp. Okay.
No.
Why are you begging him? Leave him alone.
If I see you here, I'm not a see. You are a rat. 500,000 will settle everything.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. God bless you, sir.
All those little boys where they fuck you.
God bless you, sir. Yes, little boys, they fuck me. I don't fuck old men. I fuck little boys. I fuck little boys. I cannot fuck you. I cannot fuck you. You are a dirty thing. You don't know people that you fuck.
Wow. Everyone in this country, we are all mourning, and one person just feels like, I want to harass my tenant. I think you can actually get commercial sex workers and pay them, but then a decent lady who is a student, the 300 level student of Unilag, you just feel like you can assault any young lady. It is really, really bad. In a case where they'll say, oh, the lady was the one who actually sold herself to the man, that's a different case. But in this case, where you try to forcefully sleep with your tenant, I think that's a bad one. It's a bad record. And even threatening the young lady to kill her, it is really, really wrong. Well, we'll be going on social media. We'll take some comments from social media as regards this topic to know what people really think, if they're really boiling the way I am boiling. And the first comment is coming from Ebi Chitu, and Ebi Chitu says, at his old age, cussing out on a girl old enough to be his daughter, who best dad is this in the world, it will be this. Anyways, this is someone's best dad. Of course, on Father's Day, somebody posted this young man saying best father in the world, but then look at what best father in the world is doing on social media. Very, very bad for the family of that best father in the world. Well, the second comment is coming from the Furniture Plug NG, and the Furniture Plug says, I applaud her for calling him out. Some men can't handle rejection. It's same of his kind that will be quick to call a girl loose. I support you best for the furniture plug. Honestly, this is the same person that will tell you, oh, she's loose, oh, she's wearing something skimpy, oh, she's not looking decent, or she's not looking well projected, she's not projecting herself well, and all of that. But then this lady did no harm but just to rent an apartment in your house, and you have to do that to her. Very, very bad. The last but not the least comment is coming from Unique Empowerment 21, and Unique says she should better leave. It's never an empty threat. We know threats like this are never empty. We cannot stand threat like this. When you hear anybody threatening you like this, threatening your life, please run. For what exactly? You want to sleep with a girl and she says no, and you have to threaten her? Honestly, some people really can't take rejection. They just cannot take it. But we won't take things like this. I'm happy that she brought it out to the public, and I'm sure the police are doing something about it, and definitely they are going to raise it up and let justice find its way out. Once again, I want to also sympathize with the family of the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on Sunday, the 13th of July 2025, and we wish them that God console them even at this time, and he will be returning back today to the country and be buried today in his country home, in Katsina State, and we are sending our condolences to everyone, in the country who is actually mourning the loss of a great president at this time. Well, that's it for today on Social Buzz. I'll be leaving you in the hands of the Global Morning crew as Global Morning continues. Please stay with us.
right, let's put our second conversation on the road for you now, everyone. We have always talked about empowerment. We've talked about several economic factors here on Global Morning, as well as many of our other programs. But for this particular conversation, we're turning our attention to social investment initiatives, or if you like, programs in Nigeria. Of course, no doubt there is a history to that. However, we want to look at it from the standpoint of the 8 years of Nigeria's late former president, Muhammadu Buhari, a man whose government laid so much of emphasis on social investment programs, made investment so much in that direction. Of course, we saw many of them, from the Anchor Borrowers program to things around trader money, market money, even though at some point some of these initiatives, as laudable and commendable as they were, also became discussions, topics of controversy or subjects of controversy at that point in time. But then Nigeria could testify to the fact that there had been a whole lot of beneficiaries as far as these initiatives are concerned. So to help us find sense, perspective, and context in this conversation, I'm joined by Dr. Abbas Garba Idris, is President of Risk Managers Society of Nigeria, as well as the Pioneer Director General of FCT Emergency Management Agency between 2013 and 2023. Just like me, I'm sure you're thinking, it takes a lot to have been the DG of FCT, Emergency Management Agency, for that long. After the fact that he was the one who set up the entire structure. We'd like to say a big thank you to you, Doc, for making our time.
Thank you very much for having me
this morning. Yes, to come on the program. Let's begin from 2015, when we had former president, now deceased, blessed memory, at the helms. One of the emphasis of his government then was security. The art of security, he was unapologetically and relentlessly committed to social investment schemes, even though some people now say that, the government didn't tighten the noose around many of those initiatives, as commendable as they were. When you look back now, this is a man who got into office 10 years ago as a democratically elected president. Just 2 days ago, he passed. With the benefit of hindsight, what should Nigerians understand about social investment programs from the Buhari government standpoint?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, let me use this opportunity to send my condolences to the family of the former president and to a larger family in Nigeria for this loss that we have. Absolutely, President Buhari came with 3 major programs, plans to improve the economy, security, and fight corruption. And in all these 3, he tried as much as possible to see how he can. Under the economy, the economic intervention came in, the social intervention came in, and a lot has been done. You'll agree with me that in that period, there were so many controversies, as you said, because they use it to buy vote and whatever. The vice president was busy going to the markets, giving trader money. But apart from that, there was also educational development and economic empowerment going on in different parts of the country, which has greatly improved the social well-being of the less privileged or people in the lower half of the society. So it is going to be really noted that he came with that program and he has succeeded, because that was the first time we were having different kinds of interventions, both in the health sector, educational health sector, and also in the commercial sector. When you go to agric also, you have the Anchor Borrowers, and you have also NACEL that was also supporting the farmers. And also when you look at the small scale businesses, the same thing, Smeden was also at the height of it, supporting small businesses in the rural and urban areas. So it was a great achievement.
One of them that was very popular and stood out quite significantly was the NPower, which cut across sectors.
Yes.
Education, like you said, health, agric, and the likes. And whether you had a degree or not, there was a place for you in it. How would you assess that as well? Because, of course, once one government leaves office, there's a chance you will not hear about those initiatives again.
Well, honestly, that was a very nice program that could have helped those who are not employed to really build up and improve on the economy of Nigeria. But I think they got it wrong. They could not be able to package it the way it's supposed to be. They just look at as if they are just dashing money, and at the long run, even that little stipend was not even coming up. So it would have been a tool that will empower the younger ones, those unemployed, to really contribute towards the success of the development of the economy of Nigeria. Because I remember they were given tools. After training, you will be given tools like the iPad, and so on and so forth, so that at least you can make some improvement. The essence, the concept, the main concept was for you to learn the skill and also teach others. But I don't think that has gone to that level. So everything was started and ended by sharing money, and it really affected those unskilled people that were targeted to really benefit from the NPower. So sharing money, and if you go to the social media, you see a lot of them complaining several months where they were not giving money, and yet the money has been taken from the treasury. So that was a big problem, and which has affected the productivity, the national productivity, of entirety of the economy.
The Buhari government between 2015 and 2023 has gone down in history as unarguably, or some people say arguably, the government that has borrowed the most in the history of this country. Of course, especially when you're looking at the Fourth Republic. What's your sentiments about that culture of borrowing? Because in 2016, former Minister of Finance Kemi Adeosun said Nigeria would borrow for the foreseeable future, to the point that this country would even borrow to pay salaries. What are your thoughts along that line?
Well, if you look at it, Buhari came at a time when the economy was really crashing. If you remember, he has to intervene and pay some states that were owing salaries.
More like a lifeline.
Many states were owing salaries, and he felt that, I remember when he made a statement that if you cannot be able to pay salary, then he doesn't see the importance of you as a governor.
That's right.
And so he has to intervene. So that has depleted our own foreign reserve, actually. And so going forward, they have to borrow some money for developmental purposes. And in most cases, you remember, he borrowed money to build the infrastructure, especially the railway, the rail lines. And so that is okay. If you can borrow money to pay, to develop the country, to develop infrastructure, every nation is doing that, and we shouldn't be left behind. And above that, we are contributing to all those lenders. We sign an accord with them, and we are paying. Even if you don't loan anything from them, you have to pay annual fee. So why can't you benefit from that? Why can't you withdraw from that? So he did that with the good intention of really improving the economy. And unfortunately, the lieutenants he had were not really versed in the field, or they were not really religiously committed to the dream he had. And so a lot of things happen, and that is why up to now some of his ministers are facing probe.
That's right.
And they failed him. But he had a good intention, and he had a focus, and he knew what he was trying to target. And but the problem was the lieutenants who could not be able to hit the ball rolling.
You know, former governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, himself, an investment banker and someone who is very grounded in the field of economics, mentioned one time that, look, this government under late former President Muhammadu Buhari is printing money. It sounded ludicrous to think of because there was almost no context to it. And then even the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, was confronted with that question. He was neither here nor there. And the former Minister of Finance, too, was uncomfortable responding to those issues. And the government officially or unofficially never denied the assertion of the former governor of Edo State. Today, it is established that that government actually did print a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about the factors that inform such a decision. Is it a place, from a place of saying, okay, well, our people are suffering? I mean, desperate times require or demand desperate measures. Was that the motive behind it?
Well, I think, you see, I've had such argument time without number. Buhari as the head was just supervising and taking briefs and advice from those he appointed. And I think the failure came from those lieutenants, like we earlier said. But he cannot be a president and be the governor of the central bank
at the same time.
At the same time, he cannot be the governor, the president, and be the minister of finance. He cannot be the governor and be the minister of national planning. And that is the reason why he appointed those people to support and advise him appropriately. I should think that they have misled the president, and I'm pretty sure before his death he should be regretting seeing his own central bank governor always going to court, and for one reason or another, and he will be learning. And you could see also that the best solution as an economist is not for you to go and print money, because by the time you are printing money, are you increasing the circulation of currency in the economy, which is M1, and then if you take that, what is the base of doing that? What is the basis of doing that? What is, I mean, compared to the productivity in the nation? So that has generated a lot of inflation, and then also you won't be able to track the money that is in circulation, because you won't know how much is being printed and how much is being circulated. And that is why that time you see that many people were withdrawing their own money, and it will also affect the population, the attitude of the people who used to bank. What the government ought to have done, and the CBN, is to relax some measures so that people can, those who are not saving, can now bring their money into the bank, and then you'll be able to really monitor and know the quantity of money, the amount of money in circulation, so that you'll be able to target. If you need such money to be reprinted, then you have to really get back to the president, and then the Economic Council have to sit down and look at it critically, and then look at the implication economically and politically, and then make sure that everything is okay before you now go on to start printing money. But they were printing money arbitrarily to fund the fake, I mean, the federation account, and to share it to the states. And then the states were not doing anything apart from going on spending spree and so on and so forth. There was no infrastructural development when you get to the state. So spending money, taking money, printing money to give to the state to pay salaries, it doesn't make good.
The Buhari government borrowed a lot, no doubt. Let's look at, can we say the results or the evidence that we found within those 8 years he was president were commensurate with the borrowing that we did? Because we saw IMF, World Bank throwing money into the economy time and again, and the president always coming back with one form of requisition or another to the National Assembly asking for more money. Was it just the craze to get more money, or were we putting our money where our mouth is?
Well, to some extent, some money went into the critical infrastructure. If you look at the Niger Bridge,
the second Niger Bridge.
The second Niger Bridge. look at also the proposed rail station from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, look at the rail station from Abuja, from Kaduna down to Kano, and then from Kano to Maradi, Niger Republic. So if you look at those ones, all those were planned and conceived based on the borrowed money from China and other financial institutions. And then you look at the roads construction. Before he left, there were a lot of roads being undergoing construction. If you take the Lagos also axis, you will see a lot of roads being constructed, and then a lot of rail station from Lagos to Ibadan and other parts. So that can be said, but that is not to say it has not been misplaced or misused. The money borrowed and then compared vis-a-vis with the infrastructural development are not commensurate. So therefore, a lot of things were done sharply, and that is why I said he cannot do it alone. His lieutenants betrayed him along the line. And one other thing that brought about the lapses, there were no monitoring and evaluation system. Once he gives you the job, you go on and continue.
So he won't come back to find out progress.
You have never seen him going around to check the ongoing projects. And if there is no strong monitoring and evaluation of projects, even now, that is what we are facing, because you don't have a strong monitoring team that is going around to inspect and look at the work that is doing. You can only find one person, and that is why you have a lot of contradictions. The Minister of Works will go to a place and say this is what is doing, and then when somebody goes there, will find a different thing. So if there is a strong team with a different view and different training, we will be able to really evaluate and then come up with what happened actually. You cannot go and commission 30-kilometer roads of over 1,000 kilometers. It is not possible in developed countries. And then what are you trying to achieve by doing that? So if there are teams that will look at it critically, they wouldn't have gone to advise the president to come and commission 30-kilometer halfway.
Well, that's quite incisive. I was asking you that last question because we had Rotimi Chibuka-Amechi as Minister of Transport at the time, because this is about the railway. And Nigeria did collect a lot of money from the Chinese authorities. And most of those issues came back to the National Assembly. Today, there are people who still express the fear that Nigeria is so indebted to China, that they won't be surprised if tomorrow the Chinese government wakes up and decides to take half of Nigeria. Maybe that's a bit taking over the top, but it's just a concern that we didn't prioritize properly. Now, talk to us about what the role of the National Assembly should be in cases where we are borrowing like the way Nigeria did with China or with the other Bretton Woods institutions like the World Bank and the IMF.
You see, the National Assembly has a critical role to play in all aspects of developmental projects in Nigeria. But unfortunately, our National Assembly is dormant.
Was it also dormant during the Buhari days?
The same.
Rubber stamp, as they call it?
Well, they may not be rubber stamped, but were they really moving, carrying out their oversight the way it's supposed to be? Have you seen them reverse any of the project because it has not met the required target or the template set aside for that project? Unless and until the National Assembly wake up to their own slumber and ensure that they do what is right, go and do inspection irrespective of whatever, and to make sure that you have the template and it must meet the requirement, we will continue to have such problems. It's not just for a president or executive to present a request and then you approve. You think that is the progress. It is not. You have to critique certain things. You have to find out. In fact, the need assessment have to be carried out by the National Assembly. You cannot come and say you are going to put up a road from here to Nyanya when they don't need such road. So the need assessment need to, if you find out that they don't need the road, what they needed is rail line.
Right.
So you now change it, take the road to another side, and then advise the executive, let them take the road. This area, Kuje needs such road. So give them that, and they instead build rail line for this. And that is why we have a lot of roads on our maps that have not been existing, but it has been conceived and some money borrowed even. They started the work, but it has not. If you take this road from Kefi up to Maiduguri, I mean to Gombe,
right?
It was awarded, but what is happening? Nothing.
Nobody is being held accountable.
Nothing, and nobody is being held accountable. And it passed through the National Assembly. And the same thing, Kaduna Kano Road, up till now, how many years it has not been completed? And then nobody is querying, nobody is asking questions, and it keeps coming in the budget, reviewed and reviewed and reviewed, and yet nothing. Have you seen the National Assembly going through, along Kaduna Road, inspecting the road construction? Even when there were controversy, changing the contractor. This is supposed to be also the National Assembly have to be involved to make, why are you changing the contractors halfway? And then what is it? On what terms? These are the things that we should be really questioning and then finding out, so that you don't just sit down and say, okay, just pass it. Just, in fact, at a point, you cannot be able to call the name of the contractor. They say it's a French name or whatever. Right. So we were thinking it's local, and they were saying it was French name. So all the same, we need to wake up and do our own, carry out our own responsibilities. All the arms of government supposed to be religiously and then patriotically carry their own responsibilities, so that they can save this nation. The nation will grow, and the economy will also be very productive.
Great. We're going to take a quick break at this point, everyone. There's so much to talk about. Former President Muhammadu Buhari, blessed memory, especially as it has to do with social intervention programs. When we return shortly, we also pay some attention to the school feeding program, which in itself has seen perhaps more than a fair share of controversies, and then we'll talk about the person of the late former president, his integrity, discipline, and no-nonsense hardline stance. All of that and more coming shortly. Stay with us. Perhaps it's also fair that, well, let's make this more like a panoramic discussion. Let's talk about the school feeding program, because it was during the late president, former President Buhari time that we had that. There were many persons who were against the idea, because they felt, well, how do we ensure that there is a stringent monitoring, or if you like, quality control or assurance around the food, public school system and things like that. These are schools that have really not had very robust or vibrant structures the whole time. And there were those who also raised issues around transparency. How do we know who is feeding, who is eating, who is not benefiting, and things like that? What's your evaluation of that initiative?
Well, I have personally gotten involved in that process.
The school feeding program?
Yeah. Interestingly, as a humanitarian worker, I had to have interest in that. First and foremost, I welcome it because it was going to help us reduce the number of out-of-school children. In most cases, some parents could not be able to really feed their children. So before breakfast, a child cannot be able to come to school because he has not had a breakfast, and then at a long run, he may not even be in the school. He will start going around for begging. So that was one aim. The second aim was to also encourage building a nutritional value in the children, to have a good food that they can eat, and then will build their own body system. All has been done to ensure that success much, and also to ensure to also increase the enrollment of these pupils into the schools. That has also been done. The controversy there was when some people were questioning or querying why should they be fed when they were even at home. Especially
and nobody provided answers.
And yes, during the COVID,
right.
And I remember the concept was that since the school was stopped because of COVID, and then one other aim that will not be suspended is the nutritional value for the children. So, and the government now directed that you could equally feed them while at home.
Did that happen? Were they fed at home at that time?
They were. Yes.
But if they were fed at home, how come even parents of some of these children never acknowledged this?
Well, they were. Definitely, I am aware that they were, maybe not all across the country, but definitely they were able to give them the food at home. And so I was wondering, even the minister then could not be able to come out and defend it. But I know that it was really done, and some people and some segment of the society really benefited from that. So if you look at the concept of the school feeding program, really helped, and the way they package it, it was well packaged in such a way that they use the locals who are providing the services, and they cook and they serve the school. I have gone around on my own independently to some villages when I went home, and I discovered that I even asked questions who was feeding the school pupils, and they told me, well, you know, in a village you will have a popular person who used to cook and be selling food. So in some villages that I witnessed, they were really serving the food as it was, and most of them, they were not having accounts. They were asked to create accounts with the banks, and they were being paid through the banks. But let me tell you, some state governments also contributed to the unsuccessful implementation of that program. Good data and information, because you get to some state, they don't have data, and you need to have data of the vulnerable people, the vulnerable the people who are really needed to get this benefit, to benefit from that program. So in some state they don't have. Instead, so some state provided some of their relations. They put some of their relations to benefit from that, and in some state they converted the food to cash. So these are the programs, and that is the reason why you have to have monitoring and evaluation on all projects that you are carrying, so that these things can be unearthed, and then make sure that the right thing is done. They will tell you you can't be able to access that village because you have to use canoe, or you have to use this. So instead, give us the money, we do, and it will not cross the ocean. So that was the problem.
Well, let's talk about on the final note now, the conditional cash transfer. You just talked about data, for example, how that some states were even, if you like, accessory, maybe inadvertently, to the unsuccessful factor in all of these initiatives. Was there a better way we could have administered the conditional cash transfer? Because there were those who had a problem with the former minister that you referred to a while ago, because they said, how do you go to a place and you are giving out cash by hand? But the ministry at that time also explained that most of these people didn't have accounts. So how else were you going to distribute these monies to them? When you look back now, perhaps from the benefit of hindsight, what do you think could have been done differently in this regard?
No, the best thing is for them to really first carry out an assessment.
What you call needs assessment.
Exactly, the needs assessment, and determine who really is supposed to benefit from that cash transfer. And if you have the register of those people that are going to, you have to also bring banks to ensure that they open an account, even if it means waiving some of the conditions the bank gets put for that. You can create it, and then, because by creating an account you are boosting the economy. The money in circulation that can be tracked by the CBN to know how much money is in circulation. But if you give money to hand cash, just handy, you won't be able to track it. And also for accountability and transparency, you need to have such documented. You have the list of those who are really vulnerable to that, and then you also have their house numbers. When we were in FCT, Emergency Management Agency, when we were intervening for the relief materials during the COVID, we did house-to-house distribution, and we had to do we have to get the data first from the area councils, and then we took this thing and go to drop it in the house, because since there was that restriction of bringing people together. So how can you distribute? The only way was to go house to house and drop it, and we use the register. So we should be able to have the register of the vulnerable people, the poor people that need this for the cash transfer to be effective, and they must go to the banking system, pay into the bank, let them access their money. Then the economy is being boosted, and also the money in circulation can be tracked by the CBN. So we will be able to know the inflationary rate in the country.
Oh, great. Incidentally, this is the much we'll be talking about this issue. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Doc, for making our time this Tuesday morning.
Thank you
to be here. I've been talking with Dr. Bas Garba Idris. He is President, Risk Managers Society of Nigeria. He doubles as the Pioneer Director General, FCT Emergency Management Agency, between years 2013 and 2023. We appreciate your insights on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
We'll take a quick break now. Again, it's a big day. Former President Muhammadu Buhari, now deceased, will be interred later today in his hometown of Daura, Katsina State, northwest Nigeria. Global Television will continue to track all of that for you here in the course of our broadcast. In the meantime, here's a special report we'll put together for you in this regard. When we return, Jomai and I will wrap up the program for you. That was Muhammadu Buhari about 4 decades ago, as military head of state, inaugurating military governance following the 1983 coup. He would later spend almost 2 years leading what a section of Nigerians have referred to as the war against indisciplined military government. Buhari was born on December 17, 1942 in Daura, Katsina State. He joined the Nigerian military in 1961 and rose through the ranks, eventually leading the country as a military head of state from 1983 to 1985, a period during which he launched a nationwide anti-corruption and discipline campaign, earning a reputation for tough leadership. Following decades in public service and several attempts at the presidency, Buhari made history in 2015 when he was elected as civilian president under the All Progressives Congress, APC, becoming the first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent president in Nigeria's political history. He was re-elected in 2019 and served 2 terms, focusing on fighting corruption, improving infrastructure, as well as tackling insecurity across the country. President Buhari's time in office saw the expansion of rail projects, social investment programs, and public sector reforms, including the Treasury Single Account, TSA. While his administration faced criticism over economic struggles and human rights concerns, the former president remained a significant figure in Nigeria's political history. He left office in 2023, retiring from active politics. President Bola Tinubu has since condoled with Buhari's family, as well as dispatched Vice President Kashim Shettima to London to return the remains of the late former Nigerian president.
Whoever thought that there has been some form of injustice on him, we are all humans. There is no doubt I had some people, and I wish they would pardon me. And those that think that I've hurt them so much, Please pardon me. I thank you very much.
As the Daura-born retired general and former civilian president exits this world, Nigerians will continue to assess his impact on the basis of the legacy he now leaves behind. Uyi.
All right, now this is about the time where we draw the curtains on Global Morning. Hope you've had an amazing time with us from the first, second discuss of the day, newspaper review segment, of course the AM News, and Social Buzz. Hope you had an amazing time. And of course, condolences to the former president of Nigeria, the family of the former president of Nigeria, another person than President Muhammadu Buhari. Again, Global Television condoles with the family. And at about this point, we have to say bye-bye on the program Global Morning. But join us same time tomorrow on Global Morning. I am Jumai Manson and my amazing, soft-spoken co-host.
I'm Uyag Mofugbe. Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye.